I think the air of romance about the schooners is the fact that so many people in Wiscasset know that their great-grandfather or their great-great-grandfather was a sea captain or built that wonderful family house out of money made from shipping, even though the ships didn't actually sail out of Wiscasset in many cases. I think there is this sort of white sails in the sunset mystique. A lot of older people remember when there were a lot of schooners going up and down the Maine coast.
The bow is falling. You can see the bow is falling out of that one. And this one's all ready to fall apart. And the stern's gone on both of them. So there's not much there. And when the masts go, that's it, I think. There won't be any more. People won't look at a couple of old hulks there, but the masts are what draw people.
These ships have become a part of Wiscasset's character because they're adjacent to Route 1. Tens of thousands of people go back and forth on Route 1 and they see them in the summertime.
Because all through the years, people have been down here, tourists, when they had the wharf there, they could go out on the boats and pick up different things like these glass pieces they had to shine through the deck, you know, down, and pulleys and everything like that. They've really cleaned them.
Well, they were technology whose time had passed, but even before the Wiscasset schooners came in, this is what Booth Bay Harbor looked like. The end of the 1920s, early 1930s. You had these schooners laid up all over the place. It was a seagoing junkyard, and this was repeated all up and down the coast in Rockland, in Portland, and there they were laid up, just abandoned.
On July 4th, 1978, a fire ravaged the schooner Hesper. This led to the formation of the Friends of the Wiscasset Schooners, a hometown preservation group.
And so we were trying to do a sort of a holding action to try and hold them where they are until some organization, perhaps more grown up than we were, could come in and decide what the final disposition of these ships, these artifacts, what that disposition would be.
I think that it's important to remember that a group like the Friends couldn't have existed as much as 20 years ago. We hadn't really started thinking about preserving anything other than, say, a historic ship like the Constitution. And suddenly we've realized that preservation in general, and maritime preservation in particular, doesn't always mean it has to be pretty.
The ship's importance lay in their methods of construction. Although both were built in Somerset, Massachusetts in 1917, their support structures differed significantly. The Luther Little was built the same way sailing vessels had been built for 100 years prior. It used hanging knees on the deck beams to the side connection. Hesper, on the other hand, was an engineering revolution, employing longitudinal beams rather than the traditional shelf and clamp method for support.
When we went on board and I was looking at them as a designer of modern-day vessels and realized the differences between two vessels of approximately the same size, built at the same year in the same town, that I began to realize that there is more to an old ship than what you read in books.
What were the materials? How was it made? How did you train the people? For instance, I mean, this is hardware from the Luther Little. Here's a trunnel that held the hull planking to the frames. What kind of wood is that? How was that made? Was it turned on a lathe or done by hand? Where did the iron for the spikes come from? Who made it? How? And these are questions that the thing itself can answer. You have to have the thing itself, but you don't have to have the whole thing. Take a section of each of the two schooners. Go in with a chainsaw and set it up somewhere because and show people this is how this ship was built, this is how that ship was built. Because in another 10 years, you're not going to have that option. And if we lose it, we lose it.
It's also pretty awe-inspiring to stand in the tween deck of a 220 or 230 foot wooden ship and look down that gallery of wood, and to think of the man-hours and the board feet of timber that went into building that structure.
They're special because they've survived. You have a pickup truck, and you run it, and finally you've got to do a major engine overhaul, and it's not economic. You junk it. And I think maybe 50, 60 years from now, people are going to be looking at, 1952 Chevrolet pickups with the same kind of interest that we're looking at the schooners, because there just aren't very many around to study. They're an example of technology. Technology changes and economics change.
Among the plans to maintain the presence of these ships was a strap and cable system which was devised to tie the hull of the Luther Little together to prevent its collapse. In addition, approval for piling dolphins to support the sagging bow was granted by the Corps of Engineers. However, the Friends found that these measures could not be achieved by volunteer labor. The masts of Luther Little, which are the schooner's principal attraction, were in danger of falling because of rotting at the deck level. To delay this happening, collars and straps were installed around the base.
We rapidly came to the reality that the cost of the preservation and the conservation was beyond our capabilities as a small hometown organization.
So that there's not too much left now, but just hulks, which I think they've deteriorated to the point where you just can't do any more to them. This preservation is gone.
Well, I think people, too, say, well, why don't you just let them go, measure them, and make a good model out of them? And a model is useful, and I wish we had better measurements. But the model and the measurements are not a substitute for the thing itself. There's something very special about the thing itself. And a great model of Constitution or Cutty Sark are not a replacement for Constitution or Cutty Sark, or even for a section.
They're only valuable because of their presence. Today, and in the near past, they were garbage. Tomorrow, when they're gone, they'll become extremely valuable. But then it'll be too late to do anything about it.
And it's a shame, really. I hate to see them go.